Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to WCS North American Challenger. We are getting started into our second series to introduce our third and fourth players for the North American group. My name is Fear Dragon, and I am joined by In Control as we get ready to roll back into the highlight of today, ZvZs.
Yep. But interesting ones, right? Silky had great results in the previous Challenger, so if he can keep that going, that starts to establish that name. Starkiller has been in Challenger a few times, but never really, I don't think ever going to the playoffs, but certainly never
really made a playoff or a splash,
Not a big dent. And this would be the place to do it, right? Silky's a player that he clashes with on the ladder quite often. I don't know their history beyond that, but I would say that he doesn't look at a Silky and say, well, I stand 0% chance. And then after that, you know, you've got either Antis or Neeb, and it's probably Antis, and that's a very doable group for these guys, I think.
Yeah, what's also kind of interesting is you were talking about Silky has made a splash. He's beaten Neeb before in the previous season of Challenger. Even actually, I want to bring up Starkiller, who had played Antis in the one of the qualifiers for this.
Okay.
And the kind of interesting thing there is that Antis did beat Starkiller. So as much as like watching Antis, and I know we were talking about this before off the camera, but like, you watch someone face off versus Neeb, and of course they're going to look really bad.
Right.
But then you actually see someone like, hey, here's someone maybe a little bit closer to skill level, like a Starkiller, and that's when I think Antis has been able to shine. In fact, he even managed to beat players like Estrella and others. So
we're going to have to remake it real quick. But yeah, beautiful analysis. I listened to everything you said.
Oh, I'm so happy. But either way, that's all getting a little bit ahead of ourselves just because for now, we still have to see how this series goes. But I do think that Silky is pretty favored. Silky has not just in the past season of Challenger, he has just been on an upward trajectory, becoming incredibly solid, incredibly well-rounded. And I'm actually really excited about this because the kind of thing that's not being talked about a lot with the NA players, well, the one thing that does get mentioned is that a lot of NA players, or most NA players, are part-time into StarCraft.
Yeah.
But what doesn't get talked about is a lot of those part-time players are still in school, but a lot of them are starting to encroach that graduation date, where they're kind of saying, you know, once I graduate, I don't know if I'm really going to be able to play as much, or if I can focus. Jon Snow is one of those players, Semper. Silky is exciting because he still has 2-3 years left before he's graduating. So he's hitting that kind of bigger level where he's able to beat someone like a Neeb, and he's still got a lot of future ahead of him.
Yeah, and if he goes for an English degree like I did, he doesn't even have to focus on school that much. So that'd be pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty exciting to see where things go. And I know even he was talking about it, he was saying, you know, if in the next year or two I can get a big result, I can get into like playoffs and maybe like round of 8 finish or something at one of these big WCS events, he'd even consider like taking a year off, going full time. So a lot really on the line for trying to make these big splashes here for Silky.
That's what you want to hear. That's what the WCS system's trying to promote, I think, is a lot of these players even having the debate, right? Like in years past, it wasn't really an option. If you're like, I'm going to go full time, well, if you're not on a team and traveling the world on their budget, you're probably not going to do that because there's not much to play for. So pretty cool to hear that, but it all starts here, as you said. If he doesn't beat Starkiller, then maybe a lot of those aspirations at least get put on delay or have a little bit more consideration. And Starkiller, I mean, what can you tell us about him? I know I've played him a bunch on the ladder. He's a really nice guy, very good Zerg. But what has he done in kind of the tournament scene in North America, or what is he up to?
Starkiller's been an interesting person to see in the like North American scene, because I would actually say a lot of North American players, I think they disrespect him a little more than sometimes they should. He is one of those players that gets typecasted as like, oh, he's a one-dimensional player. He just makes roaches, or apparently I think you were saying before, like he makes hydras now or something.
Well, against me, but that's, you know, don't take that too far.
But like he is a player that has had that sort of weakness that his play typically revolves around that kind of early game aggression. But the thing about Starkiller is he's still a very young player. He's actually still, he may even still be in high school, I think. I would need to double check that, but he is a very young player, got a lot of future ahead of him, and a lot of room for improvement.
Well, all right. Let's see if he has improved enough to give this upstart in the top left-hand side a challenge. The blue Zerg in this match, it's Silky. From Side Storm Gaming. Nick McNeese. Oh, we talked about that last time. Or I did, mostly. Really liked his name.
He has a good name. Spine down here in the bottom right, we have our red Zerg player already kicking it off with some aggression. We have Starkiller.
Machalski.
You know, I was talking with Silky before the series, and he wanted to give me the full details, but I kind of asked him like, oh, what, like, how you feeling about Starkiller and all this stuff? He's like, yeah, I'm not really worried. And I'm like, oh, okay, really? And he's like, yeah, Starkiller he has his weird Zerg builds, and then as long as you deal with those, you're fine. I'm like, weird Zerg builds? It's like, I don't want to say. I don't want to reveal my hand on this. I'm like, okay, okay.
Keeping it close to chest. I like that.
He's actually, okay, there's the gas.
No, that's normal for him so far.
Yeah, yeah. I thought he was saving up a lot more minerals to go for the pool first, but okay.
You always do the gas first there.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you would change it if you were super concerned with some kind of all-in. He's going to pull off the gas, is Starkiller, so it will just be the Lings. No Baneling nest behind this, as he does have his own hatchery. So it doesn't have to necessarily end the game, but he does have some work ahead of him.
Mm-hmm. Definitely want to try and get some damage done. You either try and kill off a handful of the drones, or, I mean, another ideal scenario is you actually manage to get somehow a kill on the hatchery, but that typically is not the case these days anymore. Usually you'll just force a drone pull, maybe kill a drone here or there, and maybe kill a couple of Lings or like a queen.
Yep. And it's funny too, because nothing has changed for the most part, but we definitely, as you said, we definitely did used to see the hatch, if not go down, and maybe even it's like, do they cancel it here? This is crazy. But of course now the players have evolved to such a state that they're like, nope, I can just pull the drones, buy a little bit of time, queen pops out, and I should be good to go. But with the saturation there and the Overlord spotting what is to come, actually, as I say that,
very aggressive Overlord.
He is pulling back the Lings. Yeah, it took a deep dive in there, and here's Starkiller trying to sell it a little bit. By the way, he's like, hey, look, I made 2 Lings. Oh, I'm gonna pull them back. Yeah, I don't know if I should go out on the map. This is one of the all-ins that is as old as time itself, and I love it.
All right, Silky knows he sees the Zergling speed, and now he sees all those Lings. His Lings are on a retreat back across the map, but I don't actually know if they're all going to make it home in time, and losing a few of these Lings does hurt a bit on the defense.
Oh, it hurts quite a bit. Yeah, he's going to actually try to buy some time by pulling back the 4 Lings, but I think that's a little bit of a miscue, because that just means that all 4 should die. And now the Lings are at the natural. There's nothing here to kill, as the ramp is getting clogged up by the 2 queens, but there's even a 3rd behind this that if he doesn't cancel could also get picked off. And even just losing the natural is damage enough, by the way.
You know, the funny thing is, I don't think the 3rd's been scouted yet. So do you see a scenario where he loses the natural, Starkiller backs off, and then, no, 3rd gets scouted? I was going to say, and then he just has like a hidden natural or something.
Tell you what,
not
if you
anymore.
do that moment over again and say it 5 times faster, there'd be enough time for me to maybe get an answer, but not the case. Drones behind this. Now, Starkiller is still behind in drones. I think one of the biggest problems here, if you look at the stat line, if you will, of where the game's at, is just that there's so much more production available for Starkiller. So for right now, you look at it and you're like, well, Silky's in a fine spot. Sure, but let's talk in about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes from now, where Starkiller should be up in drones and have the option to have a more developed tech path for Army as well. But as I say that, Silky's going to actually make some Lings and Banelings here too.
Yeah, and remember that Baneling nest not really on the way for Starkiller. He's only just now started mining gas, and you can see that differential in the gas income. Silky's sitting at nearly 200, and Starkiller just around 60. So even if they're down to Baneling nest now, he is not necessarily going to have the tech army that Silky's about to have.
Yep, even more drones behind this. It's actually kind of funny because Silky as well was droning here a little bit, but had he just been making pure Lings, I think he could just straight up run over Starkiller right now, but that's not the case. So defensive Baneling.
That is not a completed wall yet, and okay, he's not going to pounce on that. Yeah. I guess the Lings could clog up the rest of it anyways.
And then he's like, you know what, actually I can make this wall in, and I will sneak the Lings out, which ends up being enough to get Silky to back away. Still taking the faster 3rd is Silky. I'll tell you what, just about everything I talked about, it's like technically true, but not nearly to the same effect that I thought it would be, to be honest with you. Yeah. Starkiller is only now equal in workers, up 1, actually behind an army, so the attack was pretty good, and it definitely put Silky on alert, but it ends up being a bit of an equalizer as opposed to some kind of big leg up, I think.
Yeah, I guess the kind of interesting thing is whereas Silky made all those Lings and then went back into the idea of droning and taking a 3rd and all those other things, Starkiller kind of cut drones for a bit to get up a spine crawler, get up an extra queen, get up the roach horn, get an evolution chamber, start up an upgrade. Like, he did all this and was delaying droning, I believe.
Yep. I think you are correct, Mr. Fear Dragon, and these Lings are going to make their way to the natural now. There's just the spine crawler and a couple of queens here, but they should be able to get into the main. Yes, they do. And hopefully get some drone kills. The queen is not, I mean, it's an okay target, and you definitely are going to see it go down.
Yeah.
I would have liked the drones personally. I would have just put like 5, 6 Lings on the queen and then sent the lings after that into the drones.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised if it was kind of just like a move, like, hey, I can attack something, and then just gets a surround on the queen.
Which is cool, right? Because a lot of these Zergs are doing such a good job of, like, yes, the queen did get technically surrounded, but not a full circumference, in which case it would have died so fast. It was in between two buildings, so her sacrifice was that she dies, but no drones die. And in the end, I think that's an okay exchange for Silky. Now, Starkiller still only on the 2 bases, and Silky sees and knows this, so there's a bit of a clock that's happening right now where he's got to be saying, okay, well, if this attack from Starkiller doesn't do a lot of damage, then I'm just way ahead, right? I mean, fast roaches are nice, maybe a little earlier +1, which is not really the case here, but in his mind, maybe that's the worst case scenario. That's all okay, but the base, it's a big deal.
I mean, Jeff, let me even cut you off there. Silky's up 46 army supply to 26, so faster roaches be damned, they haven't done anything yet.
Yep. And Starkiller it's actually kind of funny because it gets to one of those weird points in the ZvZ that can happen too, where you're like, you make defensive roaches, but you have so many more than your opponent that you're like, oh, these are offensive, ? And then they just kind of go kill you.
The joys of ZvZ.
Yeah. Well, explosive production, right?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. I do have enough.
Okay, Carapace upgrade on the way here for Starkiller. He finishes up his +1 just a little bit faster and is going to actually have some of his roaches on. That was a very cute roach. But that does also mean that the rest of the roaches are going to be enough to defend that 3rd base as well. So Starkiller going to be sitting okay against just pure Ling aggression for now.
Silky is diving in the main with an Overseer right now just to be like, okay, it feels like I'm ahead, but how ahead am I? He's going to scout and see, yes, there are roaches, but less than his. There's no hidden tech. There's no secret, you know, lurker den or something, that's some big X factor. He's just very comfortable. He sees that it is just roaches and possibly Ravagers, and for right now, he just has more.
Okay. Silky just continuing to... He's still getting up a few drones. He's down a few workers right now, even though he has that 3rd base mining. So I guess he's just been trying to cut it between drones and these roaches, and eventually he'll be able to capitalize on that kind of roach numbers that he's had for a while. But all right, Link's trying to get some damage done on the drones. Not too much. I'm kind of wondering if there's a certain point where Starkiller does actually start to like come back into an equalized game though, because a lot of that army supply were these Lings, and Lings not getting too much done.
Oh, it's equalized.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got the Carapace upgrade, which will finish before the +2 range attack, which is not quite as good, but it's still fine.
Yeah.
They're right there with each other, and army supply is a slight advantage for Starkiller. It's definitely equalized. I think that's what we were saying kind of earlier on. The way they got here seems a little bit topsy-turvy, but for the most part, they're fine. Silky, however, does have the defending position with this equality between the two of them, which is going to spell, you know, strength. It's going to be better for him. So then, as always, we ask ourselves, does he make the Stefano mistake and perhaps overcommit or fight into a concave? You really can't do that in ZvZ when you have the same kind of numbers between the two of them.
All right, a lot of Ravagers being made over here for Starkiller, and almost perfect timing here. He's going to be hitting just seconds before that +2 missile attack is going to be finishing up. So he's going to be able to capitalize on that Carapace upgrade he has in his favor. Starkiller doesn't quite have the concave advantage, but he certainly is looking pretty good in this engagement.
But he's landing the Corrosive Vials. He was able to get up on top of the ramp without being closed in on. He is way up in supply right now, and like you said, he took advantage of the upgrade advantage at pinpoint precision, and that's going to do it. Decisive attack wins him the first game, and a really nice job there. I mean, like we said, it was all equal, but he was able to just be so decisive and pounce on that position and hit the timing, like you pointed out, that it was enough. Not bad.
Really, really awesome performance so far from Starkiller in that first game. As again, like I think that he is a player that is slept on a lot, especially by a lot of players in the North American scene. They don't really give him a ton of respect for I would say he doesn't get the massive achievements that a lot of other people do, but he still gets these kind of decent runs. He's been able to beat a couple of good players in like the earlier stages of events. So I think the Starkiller going to be feeling really confident about this.
You know, I've said this speech a few times, but for better or worse, the StarCraft 2 scene is just very much so feast or famine. You either win the tournament or you basically didn't even show up. And that's okay. It's got its goods and its bads to it. But in this case, Starkiller is going to be considered the underdog, the cheeser, and whatnot until they do something like beat a Neeb and go to the finals of the North American WCS Challenger like Silky, who he just took a 1-game advantage on.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to get those results to do it.
Yeah.
Starkiller's on his way to it. It is just a best of 3, and like you said, Starkiller's a bit of a cheesy guy, and we even saw kind of a mix-up in the build-up from him in this first game.
Yeah.
It's a hard guy to be behind 0-1 in a best of 3 because he's one more weird build, and all of a sudden you lost the series to him.
Yeah, definitely a bit of a wild card, but Dreamcatcher going to be map number 2. This is actually funny enough the map that in the European group, every single time we saw it, there was someone going for early pool. Oftentimes it was actually Snoot going for either a 12 pool or a 13-12 or something. So I'm not sure if there's something on this map that players feel a little bit dicey about. Silky and Starkiller just have to fix their colors before we get started. They're sitting at teal and blue, which are beautiful colors for a ZvZ.
There's many ways for these young men to express themselves, but through the colors of the game, that's not one of them. For whatever reason, we've done red and blue since the MLG days, all the way back then.
I feel like red versus blue has been like a thing for really, like even before esports stuff, I feel.
Before esports? Only Time Bones himself would be able to comment on that because a lot of us are not planeswalkers.
He's one of the people that invented esports, that's true.
Invented everything. Yeah.
All right, well here we are. We're gonna be starting on Dreamcatcher for this game. As we start down in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, top of the red Zerg player sitting up 1-0. He is Starkiller. Team Psionic Aftermath, formerly of Dust.
Oh, okay, the team Dust. Dust did not become Psionic Aftermath.
No.
Well, hey, the other guy in the top left-hand side, in the blue shorts, it's Silky.
I love that you're doing the intros today.
Well,
I also love how far away you're standing from the plus and minus buttons.
Yeah, never touching that again, man. I don't want that kind of power.
I don't think anyone wants that kind of power.
Well, some people do, Ravi. Those are the ones you got to worry about.
Let me ask you, Jeff.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a situation where someone intentionally, as a referee, wanted to slow down or speed up the game?
As a referee, like specifically, no.
Yeah.
But it's funny. I was talking a little bit about this on the show, but very often, like a producer or someone that's putting on the event would want a result, absolutely, because in the past, like Jaedong versus Naniwa would be the sickest. But instead, it's like Naniwa versus Patience, and if Patience wins, it's Patience versus not Starkiller. That's in my head. Stardust. Remember him?
Oh, yeah.
Who was a great guy, great player.
Very good at sentries.
But not the biggest fan base, and he was just so good at beating these better players that sometimes the producer would be back there and be like, come on, Jaedong. You can do it.
No. You got force fielded out.
No early pool here, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, normal stuff.
I can dig it. Dreamcatcher.
That's your Sesame Street caster word of the day, by the way.
I can dig it.
The phrase, yeah, I can dig it. Did you just watch like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure or something like that, or?
I've been watching a lot of the fighting game scene.
Ah,
so,
there it is.
Getting all those super casual phrases in my head.
Yeah. Trying to make them esports, man.
We esports now.
Get him.
All right. We do have Starkiller with way more than 100 gas. Is he just going to go for a super fast lair?
Is he, though?
I mean, if he was going to start up Zergling speed, could have done it a bit ago.
That's what I did.
This is where he just starts up a late Zergling speed, and we realize it was just a mistake or something.
It's a bit weird. There is no speed. There's nothing.
Baneling Nest?
And it's not like the bank of the
Evo
gas
chambers?
does much for you. Well, it's like late, though.
Oh. Okay, that's an interesting time to throw up your lair at your natural with the Ling there, but I guess the Ling gets in the main base anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
That screams fake to me, though. It has to be. It's not. I don't get it.
By the time the Evo chambers... I thought he was going to go for maybe one more Evo chamber and go for like 1-1 instead of just +1 missile attack.
That's that kind of crazy thing that sounds cool in theory, but then you like show up and you're just 50 supply down in roaches and you just lose. No, I don't know what he's doing, man. I mean, it's going to be the fast speed roach, I guess, because there's the +1 range attack.
I have to imagine this is some of the this is one of those kind of builds that Silky was alluding to with Starkiller. You gotta watch out for those weird builds, and this is certainly one of them.
It kind of is. It's a normal thing. Like we've seen.
Just go for roach speed and +1 missile attack, but this early.
And then he cancels the +1 range attack, by the way. So it's going to be Spire. It has to be a Spire.
No, it's... See, Jeff, now you've been hanging around me for so long now that you're trying to make predictions on ZvZ.
Oof. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. I feel like Silky senses this, though. See that queen inside the main?
Yep.
You don't do that, because you can't pick off the Overlord, by the way. So the Overlord would have to make a deep dive to do that. The only reason you'd ever move the queen there is that you're like, I think you're going for something here. Now, the roaches and queens that far off the natural and then trying to go up the ramp, a heck of a lot less. No, the queen's diving. She's coming to the main.
Yep.
Look at this. Or not the queen. Excuse me, the Overlord.
Yeah. I was going to say, actually, do you... Oh, no, this doesn't matter because it's not going to have time for Ravagers to come up. I was going to say, do you know how many Ravager Curse of Miles kill a Nidus Worm? Because you could time that out perfectly.
Yeah, I haven't crunched those numbers. That's a Nathaniel's question. He knows stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, the Nidus Worm getting some health taken off of it, but that is a lot of queens and a lot of roaches for Silky to deal with. And Silky pulling the drones, but this is not looking too favorable for him right now.
No, and the Nidus Worm actually survives. I mean, when you dive on top of it and don't even get it, bad news bears. Starkiller is just, he's making the right calls, he's making the right moves, and he's speeding this along as he is going to chop the drones down. And even if these queens and roaches somehow fall, 12 workers to 32,
yeah,
be like marching up to Jeff Bezos' house saying, I want to play Texas Hold'em, sir. No limit. And he'd be like, let's do it. And he could lose literally like 400 pots in a row and still crush you.
Just go all in every
That's it.
All right. Starkiller walks away with victory, 2-0 in the series against really, really strong up-and-comer who had beaten Neeb last season.
Really, bro?
Was he? I think he was.
He had a good result.
Yeah.
To be fair, this is the gladiator pits. Like, Silky did step up to the champion and strike him down, but then since then, what has Silky done? Not much. So that's why this Challenger tournament is so important, because this is when you show your face again. But already he's been put on alert. It's Starkiller in the winter match going up against Neeb. That'll be crazy.
That is certainly going to be something that I don't think a lot of people would have expected. But
now, what if Starkiller beats Neeb, and then Neeb has to face Silky for elimination?
That'd be pretty sick. But you're jumping ahead of yourself.
I am jumping ahead.
Silky has also got to face off versus Antis in that losers match. Oh, sorry, the lower match. The lower bracket.
The under bracket.
The under bracket. As that is going to be our next match. And following that up, it will be the winner match of Neeb versus Starkiller. Don't go anywhere, guys. You're watching the amazing groups of WCS North America Challenger.